So I had a few people ask me about the frog stance. We're deadlifting in a way where our feet are inside of our arms. And we're doing that because we want to have the hip away from the bar because we want to load the back and get it stronger over time, right? Thumbs up if you're with me. Okay, that's why we deadlift conventional. When we do the general stance, we have general rules for that, right? Heels about 8 to 12 inches apart and toes about 10 to 15 degrees. But let's say you have trouble in that position, fitting into that position. What does that mean to fit into that position? So like in the squat, Connor talked about, we move the thighs or the knees out of the way because we need to squat between our legs because we want to get into low back extension. But for some people, the standard stance with the toes out 10 to 15 degrees, it actually can be hard to fit into that position or set their back into extension, okay? Now, if you're thinking, oh, that's me, I need a frog stance, that's probably not the case, right? You probably just need to squeeze your chest up harder and set your back harder, okay? But for some people, if we really find that we need a more open toe angle, we can acquire that by bringing the stance in more, okay? Because if I keep my stance this wide and I need to maintain that knee in line with the toe, right? Because I want to avoid torsion meaning twisting of my knee, right? If I stand really wide, then I have to make my hands wider or I have to bring my hands inside of my knees. So like in sumo, they go out really wide and then the hands come in and they have a really open toe angle, okay? But if I was trying to deadlift conventional and I open my toes really wide and I need my knees to be in line with my toes, look at where my hands have to be, right? And now as I was explaining to some of the lifters, my arm has moved really far away from vertical. And now instead of just tension upon my arm, I've also added in leverage against my arm, okay? So we want to pull more efficiently, right? If we want to pull really heavy, we're going to prefer as vertical of an arm position as we can have, okay? So if we find that we need to fit into the position, you have this room. I would always recommend starting with the general recommendations, right? For all the movements, just like when we talked about wearing shoes. I recommend all of you deadlift in your lifting shoes, okay? But if you get down the road and now you're pulling heavy weight, substantial weight, and you're having trouble keeping your low back tight or having trouble getting into the position, you can move into something where the heels are closer together or even perhaps touching together, okay? Because that allows some people to fit into the position better, meaning acquire low back extension, okay? And then I would say too, the pressing of the feet, the leg pressing of the floor as we discussed, is also gonna feel slightly different, okay? And for some of us, it feels like I get a stronger, or myself, I feel like I get a stronger leg press when I'm in the frog stance. Now, don't take that the wrong way and say, hey, Coach Jeff, starting strength said, go home and frog stance deadlift. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that, like we talked about earlier, you start deadlifting over 400 pounds or into the 500s, and you're gonna make small adjustments to see if you can hold your position better or get better leg extension. You could consider bringing the heels in so you can open the toe angle a little bit and get yourself into the position, okay? Any questions about that? Okay, cool. All right. Anything you want to add, Brad? Because I know you deadlift from that stance too.
There's trade-offs to it. So you use it to get more muscle mass in, right? You use your adductors. I use it because I can't get my back flat otherwise. Some people may have that problem. If you were able to deadlift today, you don't have that problem. But it does make your legs artificially longer because you are pulling them in, and then it makes your arms artificially shorter because you have to pull them out, hands out a little wider, which means you have to pull the bar. The bar starts at the same spot, and you end up standing up at the same spot, and your legs are now longer. You have to pull the bar longer. So it's a trade-off of cost-benefit ratio. Hey, this allows me to get my back flat, but I now have to, it's harder for, I'm putting more effort into lifting that 405 pounds. So if you can do it conventionally because that's more efficient. Use that extra strength, use that extra energy to lift 410 pounds. But if you can't, that's where it's like, okay, now I'll use it to get into a better position for my personal body, I guess is how it's done.
Yeah.